So there's this brief historical moment, 1600s, and you find these collections of things, and they're like museums, but they're not there to show off paintings or saints' relics, or really any one thing in particular. Their purpose is more to evoke an emotion, in this case the emotion of wonder, and it really becomes something of an art form, and people make these Wunderkammer, these cabinets of wonders, cabinets of curiosities, and they're like shrines dedicated to this abstract concept of wonder. And I just love this idea, and I decided, why not? I'm gonna make my very own Baroque-style cabinet of curiosities. I'll document it online, and each episode will be devoted to a new object. And we'll keep everything here in my good friend's tool shed out here in the Virginia suburbs of Washington, D.C. Okay, so far so good. But let's be honest, would anyone take my cabinet of curiosities seriously without a stuffed crocodile hanging from the ceiling? Definitely not. I mean, without a taxidermy crocodile, a Wunderkammer hardly even deserves the name. But where did this association come from in the first place? Well, to start, there's this picture, which is probably the most famous image of a cabinet of curiosities anywhere. And of course, crocodiles really are quite the curiosity. For instance, it was widely believed that crocodiles had no tongues, and, much more famously, that crocodiles really loved to eat human flesh, but afterwards they felt so guilty about it that they cried, and this is where the expression to cry crocodile tears comes from. But if we trace the history back, it turns out that taxidermy crocodiles are actually more closely associated with another tradition, that of apothecaries, pharmacists, and barber surgeons. I took up this great exchange between two scholars in the 1600s, and it being the 1600s, they're having this perfectly Baroque argument over whether Leviathan in the Bible is a crocodile or a whale. And one of them writes that, well, unlike what the Bible says, neither animal has scales. And then scholar number two, who's the great Samuel Bochart, says, more or less, are you an idiot? How can you not know that crocodiles have scales, when you can just walk to any barbershop to see one hanging from the ceiling? But an even greater authority to vouch for this practice is the bard himself, who describes a stuffed alligator hanging in the apothecary shop where Romeo goes to buy his poison. And this connection between crocodiles and the healing arts points us to an even older and deeper tradition, one which really brings us right to the heart of the matter. Because stuffed crocodiles aren't just interesting to look at, they actually possess a power, a virtue in the old Latin sense of the word virtus. And this power is a reflection of the power and terror possessed by a living crocodile. And it's precisely because of this power that you can find stuffed crocodiles hanging not just in cabinets of curiosity or apothecary shops, but, incredibly, in cathedrals too. Here's a great example of a crocodile hanging in a sanctuary near Mantua. Interestingly, the same town where we find the apothecary shop in Romeo and Juliet. But the most famous example of a church crocodile is in the Cathedral of Seville in Spain. It was sent there in the year 1260 by the Sultan of Egypt as a gift to King Alfonso the Wise. When the crocodile died, it was dried out and hung from the ceiling, although what's left today is just a wooden sculpture that was carved later. These crocodiles are representations of evil that is kept in check. They're acting as stand-ins here for the primordial serpent or dragon. This column in Venice shows the same idea, only more explicitly. Accordingly, by a sort of fetish magic, displaying a vanquished crocodile works as a talisman to ward off the evil eye. And King Alfonso, when he hung the crocodile in Seville, was really just continuing a practice that was already widespread in Arab lands. In fact, the cathedral there had started out as a mosque before Alfonso's father conquered the region. And undoubtedly, the tradition goes back even further, and surely has some continuity with the ancient Egyptian practice of worshipping and even mummifying crocodiles. Amazingly, we can read in travelers' accounts that the practice of hanging a crocodile on doorways was still widespread in Egypt even into the 19th century. And this to me is one of the keys to really appreciating a cabinet of wonders. You have to understand that the objects, they're not just objects. Rather, they're pieces of a world in which everything is connected to everything else by hidden powers, virtues, and sympathies. And once you understand this, you'll understand why I just had to begin my collection with a stuffed crocodile of my own. And here he is, a baby taxidermy alligator from eBay. Provenance unknown. Now, if you object that he's an alligator and not a crocodile, well, I have two replies for you. 1. I dismiss entirely the suggestion that I should be subject to the strictures of Linnaean taxonomy. And 2. Let me point out that Alfonso's crocodile was in fact one of the original alligators anyways. In medieval Spain, a crocodile was usually just called el lagarto, the lizard. This term was still in use when the Spanish came to the New World and found crocodile-like creatures here. The English picked it up from the Spanish, and so from el lagarto we get alligator. Right. Now that we've got that straightened out, let's hang him up, shall we? a little baling wire, 2 nails, and there he is, our inaugural stuffed crocodile. By my count, he actually possesses no fewer than 3 hidden virtues. First, he's a talisman to ward off the evil eye, the importance of which, for a new endeavor like this one, can't be underrated. Second, he has the virtue of symbolizing Cabinets of Wonder as a whole, and, by extension, wonder itself. And thirdly, on a more personal note, he embodies for me the excitement of starting something new. Something I hope will be really interesting, not only for me, but for you as well. So thanks for watching, and until next time, I hope this gave you something to wonder about.